going phishing. Start off, what exactly is phishing? Just to make sure, word of mouth, everyone can see my slideshow.
Yep.
All right. So phishing is a cybercrime in which a target targets, in which people target specific people via email, right? These emails usually pose as legitimate businesses or institutions. They're usually pretending to be something else, and they potentially their goal is to acquire sensitive data. This could include banking information, such as credit cards, your actual banking account number, your routing number, passwords, any type of information they could possibly get. A big example of this, you usually see fake emails from like Chase, Facebook, all these different known organizations, basically sending you an email. Sometimes it's too good to be true, essentially masquerading something else. Someone malicious on the back end sending you this fake email to get some of your information. These cyber attacks go very back, a lot of them dating back to the 1990s. They're very widespread. They have gotten very sophisticated in recent times. A very well-known phishing attack over the years has been that of the Nigerian prince. If none of you guys have ever heard about it, there was a big email back in the day where you would get an email from someone claiming to be the Nigerian prince who had an enormous amount of money. Let's say, for example, $2 million, and he needed your help to bank that money. He would ask you for your banking account information so that he could send you the money, and he will let you keep half of it. Nowadays we kind of look back at it and we're kind of laughing, like, why is the Nigerian prince sending you an email? The truth of the matter is, thousands of people were affected by those emails. Thousands of people actually gave up their banking account information, and those same people lost a lot of their own money as well as their own personal information. This is actually how a lot of identity theft currently happens. People fall for these emails, type in whatever information they're prompted to, and there you go, they're essentially lost. Phishing is also one of the most known social engineering attacks. In the cybersecurity industry, we classify social engineering as an attack that targets human naivety, right? This is not just limited to emails. This could also be in the form of a text message. In the beginning of COVID-19, a lot of people were receiving text messages for one, the checks, the government checks so that you could have some more funding, two, free COVID testing, and three, some fake alert that there was someone who tested positive in your area. Aside from that, there's a lot of other ways social engineering takes its place. One example that one of my professors gave once was that all he did was walk into a building with a clipboard and a piece of paper and just walked around an entire building getting through security. So it just goes to show you, it's just kind of attacking the human mind in a sense, taking advantage of how nice people are and how people wouldn't bat an eye for certain things. So as far as today goes, we are going to be exploring the social engineering toolkit. It's also known as SET. What it is, it's an open source Python driven tool aimed at penetration testing and targets that social engineering. So it's ways of targeting people by exploiting how nice they are, exploiting the human element of things. It is a completely free tool. It's available online on multiple OSs. Some of the more social engineering attacks that are used specifically towards phishing or geared towards phishing are spear phishing attacks. What these specific attacks are, you choose one specific target. For example, let's say you have a person in a class and you want to target that person. You're essentially trying to spear phish that person, so you send an email specifically catered to that one person. We have website attacks. These usually take the form of replicating another website and kind of pretending to be them. For example, a great example is, let's say, Instagram.com. If you were to change that last M in Instagram to an R and an N in the keyboard, it looks almost like that M. So you could potentially abuse that fake domain and have people logging in with their Instagram credentials on that fake domain. A lot of these other attacks are other ones, as you see though, there's a QR code attack. So yes, I would recommend joining any, just scanning any QR code because someone tells you to. QR codes can in fact contain malicious information. Great rule of thumb for anything when it comes to social engineering, question everything, be paranoid. Honestly, if something looks too good to be true, chances are it probably is. The next thing I want to talk about is Kali Linux. Kali Linux is a Debian-based Linux distro. It's aimed at specifically penetration testing and security auditing. It's one of many different pen testing platforms. Some other ones you guys might have heard of are Mint or Parrot OS. All of these are Linux-based distributions. They're completely free, they're online, they have an abundance of tools. Kali, for example, has over 600 penetration tools built into it as soon as you download. And like it says on the bottom, you'll never ever pay to have Kali Linux. It's a completely free tool to use. So that being said, we are going to go into demo time. We did send out a link earlier in the week as far as asking you guys to set up VirtualBox and download and install both the SJU SATA Kali Phishing VM and the SJU SATA Windows 10 VM. If you guys don't mind, just open up your VirtualBox and just boot up those two VMs. So just to make you guys aware, what I'm going to have on my screen are both VMs side by side. On the left-hand side, we have the Windows 10 VM. On the right-hand side, we have the Kali VM. First VM we're going to focus on is the Kali VM. So if you guys could log in with the credentials we provided. The username is SJU SATA, all caps, and the password is security20 exclamation point with a capital S. So while you guys are logging in, I'll just go over some basics on Linux, right? Linux itself has a lot of different distributions, a lot of different OSs that are very similar. Some of which you may have heard of include Ubuntu, Debian, CentOS, Fedora. Even Mac OS to some extent is based off of Linux OS, right? So all of these different operating systems, more or less, chances are you've played around with Linux. You just didn't know it. As to that fact, a lot of Android operating systems, if anyone uses Android, is running some form of Linux on there as well. So as a great rule of thumb, I do believe it's great that everyone knows a little bit on how to actually use Linux. It's everywhere essentially. If you use some type of cloud architecture, chances are it's being hosted on a Linux server. So what we're going to do first, before we kind of dig into how to use the social engineering toolkit, we're going to go over some basic Linux commands, just so you guys are more familiarized with the OS. It really goes a long way to know these basic commands. So if you do have your Kali Linux open, go ahead and click this black window all the way on the top left. It will prompt you to a terminal emulator. So when using Linux, there is a GUI version, of course, that's on the back end, but you're going to want to be more comfortable using the command line interface, and that's what we're going to be going over kind of right away. Just some basic commands so that you get more comfortable with using the CLI. At first, it is somewhat, I would say, intimidating if you never use it, but try to get out of your comfort zone, get used to CLI. A lot of great tools you can use in your careers are command line based. So what we're going to be doing is, first command we're going to be going into is ls and dr. All right, so if you are in your terminal, just go ahead and type in ls. What that is, it'll actually list out all the directories that you have going on your device, right, on this host. So right off the bat, we do see the desktop, we do see the documents, we do see downloads, music, pictures, public, templates, videos. All these are different directories that we could go into. The same thing would happen if we type in dir. Only difference between these two is the way it formats it, how it lets you see it. If you're in a different directory, which we'll go over in a bit, which have possibly, even 50 different directories inside there, you'll see them possibly lined up in a vertical alphabetical order or in a horizontal alphabetical order. That's the only difference between ls and dir. So speaking about directories, right? What is a directory? A directory I like to explain as a placeholder. Think about it as when you're on your Windows PC, if you're using Windows. You have your C drive and you have multiple folders in there. Each one of those folders would be described as a different directory. That's essentially what we're seeing here on this CLI. We're seeing all those different folders that could house more information. So the next command we're going to go over is CD. What CD is, it's basically your ticket to change directories, go into somewhere else. So for example, right now we are in our home directory that is indicated by this little squiggly sign before the $sign. If we want to head into our downloads folder, right? Let's just say, for example, we downloaded something off the internet, it's in our downloads folder, and we want to access it. Way you would access it is by going CD space, define that directory. So you would type out downloads. Keep in mind, these directories are case sensitive. So if you do have, let's say, another downloads folder with the lowercase d, it will be something completely different. All right. So we do want to keep that capitalized. Once you do CD downloads with the capital D and you hit enter, you see how this changes. It actually indicates that you are now in the downloads directory. As of right now, there is nothing in this specific downloads folder, being that this is a clean image. But if I did have any type of file, they would be stored in that downloads folder and they would appear. Okay, so it does change depending on what directory you're in as far as what files you'll be able to see. Now let's say we're in the downloads, right? How do we go back one, right? What if we lost our place? We don't want to go on downloads. We want to go into documents. If I try going here, there are no more directories. So if I do from here, CD documents, it's going to tell you there's no such file directory, but it's right over here. The reason being, once we're in downloads, there's no such thing as documents in downloads. So you kind of have to hop out of that rabbit hole and kind of dig into it a different way. Where you go back, if we type in CD double period, you'll be able to go back into that original home directory. If we type in ls again, now we see these are the directories you can now access. And now we could go ahead and follow up that command, CD documents, and it'll let us into that directory. Just to let you guys know, something that is great about Linux as well, being that we did type in that command earlier, we don't need to type it in all over again. If you do press your up arrow key, you are able to kind of scroll through the previous commands you did type. That goes for both the up and down arrow keys. So now that we're in the documents folder, right? What I want to teach you guys to do, well, actually before that, what we're going to do is create a file right from the CLI, right? Usually when you're on a Windows machine, what do? You open up Microsoft Word, you might open up Notepad. I don't know who creates a document out of Notepad, but it's possible. You would open up a document, click Save As, and then choose where you're saving it. You could do that as well here, but there's different ways of going about it. One way is the touch command. If you do touch, and let's say we want to name the file test, right? Test.txt, and we hit enter. If we hit an ls again, we are still in documents, but now there is a test.txt document, right? Now, if we do another command, which is cat. Cat is a command that lets you kind of see what's in that file. As of right now, test.txt does not have anything inside it. So just to kind of show you, if I do cat test.txt, nothing comes up. The reason being, it's just an empty file. It's just a placeholder. Another command that we're going to use now is nano. Nano is a text editor built into Linux distributions. What that is, we're going to open up the file and be able to edit it straight from our command line. So if we do nano test.txt, there you go. We have the empty placeholder document. From here, we could type in anything we want, like welcome to our lab. Right over here on the bottom, you do see different options as far as undoing, redoing, cutting, pasting. But what we're going to do is exit. So the way you exit is Control X as according to the bottom. Right over here, it asks you if you want to save what you've just written or not. We're going to press in yes to save it. On the bottom, it asks you again, file name right to test.txt. You just press enter. All right. Now, if we try the cat test.txt one more time, you will see that it prints out that message that we typed in, welcome to our lab. So it's a quick way of seeing that text document straight from the CLI. Now, let's say we have a document in the documents folder right now. We have test.txt in documents. We don't want it in documents. Say we want to move it to the downloads folder, right? Or we want to move it somewhere else. How would we go about that? The command we're going to go over is mv. mv, basically, the way I like to think about it, it's move. We'll be able to move the file somewhere else. So we do move test.txt, and then we define what document we want to send it to. I'm sorry, what directory we want to send it to. We could go ahead and do that. So we would do /downloads. So another thing I wanted to mention is the sudo. Sudo, if you guys don't know, is basically the root, is getting the main admin control on your system, right? When you're on a Windows system, you usually have basic access. Once you right-click something, you could run as administrator. Running as administrator gives you that extra little push to kind of do what you want. It's a super user on the computer. It kind of can't be told no in a sense. So we're going to be going over sudo. Sudo is a great command. You're going to want to use it relatively anytime you run a big tool, just so that you don't get the permission denied error. Okay, so we're going to do sudo. And what I like to follow it up with is su. Reason being, whenever you are just typing sudo and you do a command right after it, it keeps you in that root user mode for that one specific command. Sudo su keeps you in that super user mode for the entirety of it. All right, so we're going to type in sudo su, and it prompts you for the password for the user. Again, if you guys don't remember, the password is security with the capital S 20 exclamation point. All right, so now that we're here, what we're gonna do, oh, sorry, looks like I typed that in wrong. Let me type that one more time. Okay, I'm gonna try that one more time. So move test.txt to downloads. All right, so if we go cd back one time and we go into the downloads folder, we hit ls just to see what's in here. Sorry. CD. Looks like I lost it for a second. Where is it? Okay. So moving on from that, the next command I did want to go over is make directory. So let's say, for example, you wanted to create a new directory for your schoolwork, right? Right now in the home, we have these different directories. We have desktop, documents, downloads, music, pictures, public, templates, and videos. You could always do mkdir, name it school or whatever you like. Just remember it is case sensitive, so whatever you put here, that capitalization will follow through. If we do an ls one more time, we do see that school is now a directory. Okay. Something else I wanted to go over is deleting stuff, right? How do you delete anything? Let's say you no longer want that school directory there. You're tired of it. You no longer want it. All you do is rmdir, remove directory, and specify the directory. Once we go back, it's no longer there. So those are some basic commands just to move in and around specific directories and handle different files. Something that I love using all the time, and I would recommend you guys doing. As you guys could see, doing command after command does fill up your CLI, and it gets kind of hard to read. You could always just type in clear, and it'll clear that out. The next thing I did want to mention are two different commands that could be really helpful, specifically when you're exploring Kali OS or any other Linux-based OS. Let's say you want to use a specific tool, a tool that we use relatively a lot in cybersecurity, and I do recommend possibly a lot of the comp sci people or science people to look into it, is Nmap. Nmap is a great tool. What it is that it's a port scanner. Essentially, you make it point at a device, and it scans that device for open ports. These ports are open portal of entries so that you could communicate with that device. That being said, using Nmap for educational purpose by no means is bad. However, if you're using it to maliciously target someone, it could be frowned upon and potentially could be breaking some type of law. That being said, when you do use tools, it's important to know what you're using. So two commands that could help you do this. If you do a nmap, the tool I want to use, --help, it'll bring up all this documentation as far as how to use the tool. So it tells you the type of tool it is, so the version. It tells you the usage, nmap, scan, how you would type it in. And then you could specify your target for this specific tool, right? If you put IL followed by the input file name, there you go, you'd be able to do that. You could do host discovery. So it just kind of goes over how to use that specific tool. Keep in mind, this is specifically for Nmap. If you do that --help on any other tool, you would get a different output. So this is just how to basically run the tool when you do a --help. So if you are using a new tool and you don't know how to properly use it, --help would help you kind of get a better idea on how to actually go about it. The next thing that would definitely help is man. The man command stands for manual. It's basically, it'll print out a manual for you on any given tool. So if I type in man followed by nmap, we get a lot more documentation on the specific tool. You see the name of it, you see the synopsis of it, you see the description of it, and if you keep on hitting enter, you just get an abundance of information. Of course, you know, it's a lot of reading. If you really want to go in depth onto what Nmap does, go ahead and type in Nmap. You'll find out a lot. Like I said, this manual tool does apply to different tools differently. This is specifically for Nmap. So it's just great little commands to know in the back of your mind when you're using Linux OSs so that you could further explore them. So that being said, what I'm going to do now is clear. Knowing those basic commands, we're going to dig into how to use Kali OS, Kali Linux, to potentially use it for phishing. So what we're going to do is straight from your command line, just type in SE toolkit. So as you can see here, it did not run. The reason being we aren't in super user mode. So in order to do that, we're going to do, if you guys recall, is sudo sudo. Being that we already typed in our password, it's not going to ask for it again. We're in the super user mode. You could tell the difference. Over here, we were in SJU SATA user. Here we are in root at Kali. So here it is telling us what user we're in. So now that we're in root, what we're going to do is that same command again, SE toolkit. So this is the social engineering toolkit we mentioned earlier. This is the free tool. It has an abundance of different tools that you could use within it. What we're going to be looking at today are the social engineering attacks. Okay, so it literally tells you to select from the menu. So of these, we're just going to go ahead and type in 1, the option that we want. From here, we have different options, right? We have 1 through 10. We have spear phishing attack vectors, which, as I mentioned, if you're looking to target a specific person, spear phishing attack vectors will probably be what you're looking to do. Website attack vectors, what that is, like I mentioned before, we're going to be kind of cloning a website and using that to our advantage. Number 3 is an infectious media generator. Let's say you want to create a JPEG and possibly mask it with some type of malware. That's kind of what you're looking at. I wouldn't recommend anyone do that. Of course, all of this is for educational purposes. You could create your own payload and listener, mass mailer attack. The way you usually see phishing attacks is someone creates an email and sends it out to a huge mailing list and is just kind of hoping for the best out of it. The more sophisticated a phishing attack is, the more likely it is to be successful. That being said, the more successful ones are the more tailored towards specific people or tailored towards a specific thing. So what we're going to go ahead and do is 2 website attack vectors. Okay, so here we have a couple different options, right? Once we hit the website attack vectors. The first is the Java applet attack method. What that does is that it spoofs a Java certificate and delivers a Metasploit based payload. The next option we have is the Metasploit browser exploit mode method. What that does is that it does utilize a Metasploit and so it exploits the browser via an iframe to deliver a payload. The third are credential harvesting attack methods. These are more or less used to kind of have the user log in and gain their credentials, username and password. All the other ones are more or less kind of either interrupting a session or having the user download something. What we're going to be doing is the credential harvester attack methods. We're going to go ahead and type in 3. Over here we have a couple of different options once again. We have web templates, site cloner, and custom imports. If you choose a web template, there are kind of predefined options for this. You could always import them if you find them online. The second option is a site cloner. That's the one we're going to be doing today. What that does, it lets you type in the website you want to replicate, and it kind of creates a fake one for you. And then the third one is a custom import. For those of you who are really into coding or really into HTML, you could actually code your own thing and send that out. What we're going to be doing is to the site cloner. So right over here, what it's going to be asking you is to set up the post address of where you're going to be receiving these credentials. Right now it's prompting me 192.168.1.209. What is that? So if you go to File and we hit New tab, what you're going to want to do is an IP space address. What this command does is that it lists you your IP address. Right now we have a loopback connection and Ethernet address. The one that has connection to the internet is going to be my Ethernet address. Keep in mind, yours would not be the same as mine. It would be tailored to your specific network. So your address might be different than mine. My address, as per right here, is 192.168.1.209. Knowing that this address that we have over here is correct, we're going to want all of the credentials that we harvest to be sent to this device. So all we're going to do is hit enter. If your IP address that was given here did not match the IP address we pulled on this command, go ahead and just type in the IP address that we received here when asking you for that post IP address. Okay? Once you enter in that IP address, it prompts you to enter the URL you're going to clone. What we're going to be doing is, of course, facebook.com. That's all we have to do. Type in facebook.com and hit enter. As you can see here, it's actually showing you cloning the website, HTTPS, login Facebook, login PHP, and then it tells you the best way to use this attack is if username, password from fields or form fields are available. Essentially, like I said, this could potentially work on any other website. For example, chase.com, instagram.com. Any of these websites that require username and password essentially could be cloned via this tool. That's how easy it is. So now hopping onto the Windows machine. The one thing you want to make sure before you kind of take on the next steps to make sure it's going to work, you're going to open up the command prompt, which is on the bottom, the black terminal we see over here. Once you're in there, you're going to want to do an IP config. What it's going to do is going to show you your IP address, right? As we can see from this IP address, and just going back to my Kali VM just to show you, the IP addresses are very similar. We have a 192, 168, 1, and the only thing that changes is the last number. The last number would be the 4th octet. What this tells us, aside from the default gateway being the same, is that both IP addresses are on the same network. That means that both computers could communicate with each other. For this to work, you do need to have both computers on the same network, communicating with each other. There are ways of going above and beyond that. Per se, if you set up port forwarding on the Kali VM or something like that, so that you could get that to reach outside of the network. But for this specific lab, we are going to keep it on the local network, okay? So once we did verify the IP addresses are on the same block, we're going to go ahead and go into Firefox. Just open up a browser. Firefox or Edge. Edge is on the bottom for some of you who prefer that. I personally love Firefox, so we're going to go ahead and open that. And it's as simple as this. All we have to do is get the person to type in our IP address in their browser. So our IP address is 192.168.1.209. And look at what happens when I do this. Let me flip it over here so that you guys can see it in live time. I hit enter, and there you go. It's a facebook.com page, right? It looks like Facebook. It says Facebook, has all the colors of Facebook, has the different languages on the bottom. Over here, we see in live time what's kind of going on. It even tells you we got a hit. As far as that, it's just saying that someone's connected to us and it's looking to see what it can grab out of them. Now, let's say my Facebook login was sjuseta@gmail.com. And let's say my password for the worst reason was password 20 with the capital, with the exclamation point and a capital S, right? We hit login. So what we're seeing now, this no longer, it kind of just refreshed on us, but if you look up here, now it's actually facebook.com. It's not showing our IP address no more. What this tool actually did, it gave them a fake website. Once they used it, it's kind of like, oh, I messed up. Here's the real page. So if someone's not paying attention to that, they could fall for that instantly, type in their password without knowing, just think, oh, maybe I typed in my password wrong, and re-enter it, and there you go, they're in their Facebook page, and they wouldn't even bat an eye. Here on the Kali VM, if we scroll up a bit, right where you see the green lettering, right underneath, we see a couple of different parameters as far as what the website picks up, but what we're interested is right over here. We see possible username field found, possible password field found. As you can see, it's what I typed. It's sjuseta@gmail.com, and the password was password 20 exclamation point. So in live time, it harvested that username and password, whereas the user who typed in the username and password didn't even realize, because after the tool collected everything, it just reloaded facebook.com. This is how easy this is. Essentially, someone could cater an email and just paste the hyperlink. They could type in www.facebook.com and put a hyperlink behind that to your IP address, to the specified port, etc. And you just click it thinking it's facebook.com. And in reality, it's a credential harvesting domain, and there you go, you lost your credentials. Of course, Facebook is a social media. To some people, social medias are everything. If you get your Facebook hacked, it might mean a lot to you. But just think about the application this could do as far as the wider scale. If someone were to do this with Chase.com, if someone were to do this with BankOfAmerica.com, these are finances, these are people's life savings. This is why knowing about phishing is so important, being that it has very long-lasting effects. Okay, at the end on Kali, if we scroll down, all you're going to want to do is hit Control-C to get out of it. And it tells you right over here, file and XML format exported to root /set reports, and it gives you the XML file. What we're going to do is copy from the first slash to the end of the directory. We're going to leave out the 2020. Just once you highlight it, right click it and copy selection. We're going to exit out the tool, and we're just going to type in exit. From here, what we're going to do, we're going to type in CD, and we're going to paste what we copied. We type in ls, we see the XML file. The reason why I would say to tackle it like this, let's say if you had run the tool a few times, it'll say different XML tools, different XML files, so you could view them all, you could choose which one you want to see. If we do again, cat 2020, and just to avoid typing it all, once you type 2020, just press tab. Tab will kind of fill in it for you. The only time tab might give you an issue is if there are multiple files that start the same way. And here we see the file in plain text, the one that was collected in the XML, with, of course, right over here, the parameters email and password, where we see sjuseta@gmail.com, and the password was password20 exclamation point. If we had collected multiple emails and passwords, they ought to be listed here. We have constant access to it, being that it's saved to our machine. So this is how easy this is, okay? That being said, the next part of this is how to keep safe from phishing attacks, right? Of course, we want to teach you what's out there so that you're aware. The whole purpose of doing these labs is for educational reasons. We want to make sure you know to get into the mind of those attacking so that we could prevent it from happening to ourselves. So first thing, protect your computer by using security software. If you're using a Windows machine, there's Microsoft Defender that's already on there. There's different types of AVs, antivirus software that you could always download for free. It's always good to have one of them on your computer running. Keep in mind, these phishing attacks do also target mobile phones. Mobile phones, I don't know about you guys, but I check my email more on my phone than my computer. That being said, it is very important to set up your phone to update automatically. We know it's annoying. We know setting your phone aside for 30 minutes a day could be very crucial. I'm constantly on my phone. I know you guys probably are too. I finished updating my phone actually earlier today to iOS 14. Reason why we mentioned doing these updates is because a lot of them, if you read into the actual the terms and agreements or the actual small fonts into it, they're there for security threats. A lot of them actually are patches, so they do kind of cover up exploits that have been found in the previous OS and trying to cover them up. So there are a lot of security updates that come out in every update that comes out. It's always recommended that you protect all your accounts with multi-factor authentication. What that would consist of is something that you know and something that you have. For example, you know your password. What do you have? Your phone number. I know it's annoying when Gmail is asking you if it's you, but it's really helpful. Anytime you log into Gmail from another computer, it's like, are you really you? Are you really Isaac, for example? What it does, it sends you a text message, you're able to repeat it back, the text message, and you're into your account. Same thing would go for your iCloud for any iPhone user. Same thing, multi-factor authentication is a great thing to have. It makes it a lot harder for anyone to just sign into your account when they know you're using a password. Next is, of course, protect your data by backing up. That's just a great practice to have. Backups are one of the things that could save your life, essentially, if you ever break anything or if someone breaks something for you. If you have a backup of your information, it kind of reassures you that you get your information back. That goes for both your computer and your phone. Being at St. John's, you know, a lot of your computers are probably filled with homework assignments. It'd be horrible if your homework assignments were just lost. In case you guys didn't know, we all have access to OneDrive, and I do believe it is unlimited storage. Start using that. Save all your assignments to OneDrive just to have that constant backup and have access to it anywhere. The final tip I have for you guys is check URLs. Like I mentioned before, you could have facebook.com and then embed a link into it to another URL, a malicious URL. Always on emails, you're able to hover over the link with your mouse, and it'll kind of show you right away what the real link is. If it looks suspicious, well, there you go. Kind of just know right off the bat it's suspicious. You could always copy and paste it and then paste it into blank text editor or a notepad, for example, just to see what the actual link is. Some great tools to also use are online sandboxes, in case you guys didn't know. Browserling is a great website. I do believe you can set up a free trial on it. And what you're able to do is kind of visit these websites that you think are suspicious, put it into this website, and the website itself kind of acts kind of like a virtual machine, if you will, just to test out this specific URL. This way you don't actually harm your own computer. So it is a tool that is out there. You also have VirusTotal. For those of you who have never gone to virustotal.com, it's a great website to look up IP addresses, hash values, or URLs. If you see a URL that looks kind of fishy and you don't want to trust it, copy and paste it into VirusTotal and see what it tells you. It'll tell you if multiple antivirus softwares have picked it up as being bad, suspicious, or if it's good. So you definitely got a lot of information from there. Hybrid analysis is another great tool that's very similar to VirusTotal. Same thing, you're able to copy URLs into that website and kind of get a good synopsis if that site is good or bad. And the last thing I want to leave you guys with is if you ever get an email that seems too good to be true, it's probably too good to be true. Don't believe it. For example, the Nigerian prince, chances are he's not going to split 50-50 with you that $2 million. The beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic, there was a lot of phishing campaigns going around regarding COVID-19. For example, I remember getting an email saying, hey, sign up here to get the vaccine for COVID-19 about 2 weeks after the entire thing started. Being a cybersecurity major, I of course was like, this is not legit, immediately deleted it. However, if let's say someone who isn't as tech savvy, for example, my parents aren't as tech savvy as I am, if they were to get that email, there's probably a 50-50 chance they might click on it. Hopefully they wouldn't enter in their information. But you know, it really goes to show you different people at different levels kind of see things at different ways. Now that you have this knowledge, it's great to kind of pass it on. Let people know when they do get an email that they think it might be true, too good to be true. Look it over just to see if it is too good to be true and just kind of take it from there. But yeah, phishing attacks are everywhere. It's very prominent in today's society. Like I said, it's one of the oldest techniques used, and yeah, it's one of the most successful ones as well.